Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Music Den. I'm your host, Armando Venditti, hoping you guys are having a good night. And above all else, that you're looking after yourselves and one another. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to episode one of Have You Heard Of? And this and the next four episodes to follow, I'm going to be discussing with you five quote unquote obscure progressive rock bands. Now, when you think of progressive rock bands of the 1970s, you think of Yes, Genesis, King Crimson, ELP, Jethro Tull, Rush, just to name a few, right? But there are other bands out there that were around from the early 70s, 71, 72, to around the mid 70s, 75, 76, that for some reason did not achieve the same level of success as the bands I just mentioned. In fact, if you were a band in the early to mid 70s and you were labeled either symphonic rock or progressive rock, you were, in most cases, unfavorably compared, either vocally or musically, to the bands I just mentioned. One band in particular was a band called Starcastle, who were a US progressive rock band signed to Epic Records, who released, I do believe it was four albums during their lifespan as a band, two of which were produced by Roy Thomas Baker. Now, you would think that if you had an album produced by Roy Thomas Baker, who'd worked extensively with Queen, also engineered Nazareth's albums, worked with Foreigner, Journey, The Cars, that if he produced your album, you were guaranteed a hit. But unfortunately, for Starcastle, that was not to be, and that was never going to be the case, because unfortunately, they were most notably compared to Yes, in terms of vocal stylings, the lead singer for Starcastle was basically slammed for being compared to John Anderson of Yes. And listening to the debut album of Starcastle, I can understand why. He really did sound like John Anderson. And lyrically, they really didn't hold up, I'm sorry to say. But, I digress. So for episode one of Have You Heard Of, we're going to be focusing on the band called Fireballet. Now, Fireballet were a band from the US, from North Jersey. They were formed in 1971 until they were together until 1976. They released two albums. They were signed to Passport Records. And the album we're going to be focusing on is their debut release, Night on Bald Mountain. Now, Night on Bald Mountain was also called Night on Bear Mountain, is a series of compositions from classical composer Modest Mussorgsky, who lived from 1839 to 1881. Now, when you hear the opening strains of Night on Bald Mountain, you know exactly the piece that I'm talking about. It is unmistakably, you know what it is, right? And you know, a lot of progressive rock bands, or a good amount of them, used this composition as inspiration for the work they did. Well, Fire Ballet basically did a somewhat of a carbon copy of this composition. Now, for their first release, Night on Bald Mountain, in the band, you had Jim Cuomo on lead vocals and drums, Brian Howe on keyboards, organ, and vocals, Reich Chalada, hope I say that correctly, on guitars and vocals, Frank Petto on keyboards, sequencer, and vocals, Martin Billing on bass and 12-string guitar, and Ian MacDonald of King Crimson fame on flute and saxophone. Now, Night on Bald Mountain, the album has five compositions, four on side one and one on side two, 18 minutes and 55 seconds, which is the Night on Bald Mountain suite. Now, I've listened to Night on Bald Mountain about four times, and I'm going to go through this with you, okay? Again, the album starts off with an epic track called La Cathedral. 10 minutes and 16 seconds, written by Jim Cuomo. Jim Cuomo wrote a good amount of these compositions on the first album. In my notes, I have here Filet Cathedral. Heavy bass on the intro, a lot of drum fills, very epic, very grand, a lot of twinning of guitar and synth lines, and which is great. Musically, it's competent, it's good. The vocals for me are not really strong. I think that they weren't brought up really prominently in the mix for whatever reason. Either that or his uh, Jim Cuomo's vocal ability wasn't that, I guess, for lack of a better term, strong. You know, nice saxophone on this track. Again, lyrically, they basically go the um, Game of Thrones route, dungeons and mystical, uh, you know, uh, witches and warriors and knights and all that kind of stuff, like, just, storming the castle wall, that kind of thing. Again, very grand, very epic, right? Um, Track two is a track called Centurion, Tale of uh, Fireball Kids, another track from Jim Cuomo, drummer, 4 minutes and 46 seconds. Great harmony vocals, nice use of organ on this track, a lot of cymbal crashes, very dramatic, very grand, very epic, and or attempt to be epic in terms of production. Um, Other notes I have here are intricate time signature changes, good fuzz guitar, a lot of wall of guitars and in terms of keyboard textures and stuff. It is good. It is good. Vocally, though, again, the vocals seem to be sort of kind of buried in the mix. I don't understand why, but it is what it is. Track three is another Jim Cuomo composition, the Fireballet, clocking in at 5 minutes and 15 seconds. Intricate passages, very dramatic in terms of its presentation and arrangement. Last track on side one, Atmospheres, is the one track written by Reich Chelada. I hope I say his name right. In my notes, I have here uh, delicate guitar and synth passages, nice use of flute. Ian McDonald's flute playing is amazing on this album. Um, the vocals are still hard to make out. For some reason, they tended to bury the vocals in the mix. I don't know why. I don't know why. To me, the vocals should be just above the music or blended in just so, but the vocals should be, um, audible. You should be able to hear it properly. Side two, again, is the Nine on Bald Mountain Suite, clocking in at 18 minutes and 55 seconds. There are, as I see here, there are 5 sections to this. You have the Mussorgsky Nine on Bald Mountain, which clocks in at 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Now, you know this piece when you hear it. It's very grand, very epic, very stark. Okay. But it's unmistakably, you know what it is when you hear it. They perform it flawlessly, right down to exact note for note. And it is great. Next section is a section called Night Tale, which is composed by all members of the band, clocking in at 6 minutes and 28 seconds. Again, a lot of use of guitar and keyboard textures, almost like a wall of sound. And what they also do with this as well, with this piece, they do a lot of high-end harmony vocals, like a lot of, I don't want to say screeching or yelling, but a lot of high octave, high-end harmony vocals, almost like a wall of vocals that come in, very dramatic, when they come in. Um, the next piece is called The Engulfed Cathedral, clocking in at 4 minutes and 38 seconds. In my notes I have here, great use of guitar and synth textures, a use of gong and walls of organ and tubular bells. Very grand, very epic. Um, just a wall of sound, right? You're sort of engulfed, almost like being engulfed in flames. You're engulfed in this just barrage uh, of musical textures that are coming at you, right? And it's good. It is good. Um, the final section to the piece is the final two sections, I should say. Nighttale Reprise. Again, it's a revisiting of Nighttale, clocking in at 2 minutes and 34 seconds. Again, more high-end harmony vocals, a wall of vocals that come in, wonderful textures too. And it ends with Night on Bald Mountain finale. Again, the Mazursky composition, clocking in at 2 minutes and 50 seconds. And it starts off grand, but it ends very sort of I was going to say peacefully, kind of like on a very quiet fade out. And it's great. It is good. Um, in terms of the album overall, listening to it, I've heard it about 4 times, as I said. Um, I can understand why, to an extent, why it didn't do as well as, the band or the record company wanted it to. It did well enough that it did garner them another album called Tutu, but the band did break up after Tutu came out. Um, I just think that maybe on a production standpoint, I think that maybe the vocals for the album could have been more prominent in the mix. For me, I had a very tough time reading the vocals, like making out what the vocals were saying. And Jim Cuomo comes across as very grand, very brave, a lot of bravado in his vocal delivery. But again, it's very difficult for me to make out what he's singing. So I think that may have hindered a bit of the success of the album. But you know what? Don't take my word for it. You can listen to the album yourself. It's on YouTube. You can stream it, and you can also get this album on Amazon for a good penny, and also on eBay and Discogs if you're really interested to find out more about this band and what they are like musically. They are good. I wouldn't say that they were anywhere near Yes or Genesis or King Crimson, but I do feel lyrically they were trying to cover the same ground that Yes and Genesis and King Crimson were trying to cover. Um, Maybe unsuccessfully so, but it is what it is, right? So there you have it, guys. Episode 1 of Have You Heard of Fireballet, Night on Bald Mountain. Once you listen to the album, or if you've heard the album, please let me know down there in the comments what you think. Again, no right or wrong answers, and just give me your opinion. And if you haven't heard it yet, you can stream it on YouTube before you want to buy it. Please don't take my word for it. Listen to the album yourself. And once you do, again, let me know what you think, down there in the comments below. And yeah, I mean, again, there are no right or wrong answers. Sorry, it's been a long day, guys. But just opinion. So again, once you listen to the album, please let me know what you think of it, and stay tuned for episode 2 of Have You Heard of? All right, that's it for now. Please look after yourselves and one another. Please click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to keep yourselves on top of any new content that I've got coming up. And I will see you soon with more videos. Bye for now.